So to start with, on a personal note, what I wanted to show you, let me go to Firefox, and I'm going to go to my website. You can find these videos online everywhere, but I wanted to share something personal. My son, who is a senior this year, the past couple of years, senior in high school, has participated in a robotics group, and they build competitive robots. They are not designed to tear each other apart. There are rules that change every year, and they're given a 6-week build time in January to design, to test, to build these robots based on the rules. And it was started by Dean Kamen, the founder of the Segway. And yeah, and also the inspiration for it was based on Dr. Woody Flowers, who his projects, he was a professor at MIT, and what he would do every semester in one of his classes, he would divide the class up in teams of students, and he would give them this box of parts. Here's a box of parts. Here are the rules. This is what this robot has to do. It has to climb up a 60% incline, or it has to go up a vertical wall or on glass or something, or it has to do something. And now it's your job to take these parts and to build something that does that. Well, Dean Kamen has taken that a step further, and he developed something called FIRST. And it's an acronym, and I can't remember what it stands for. It stands for inspiration, robotics, look it up. Type in FIRST, and I can't remember what it is. So I'm going to go to Kirk's classes. I'm going to go to inspiration, and I have the video. And this is the video that they post on YouTube every year when they come up with, it's a computer-generated thing to show you what examples of the new rules are. And of course, it's taking forever to load today. I don't want any new. Come on. That's interesting. They're not showing up here, huh?
It came up on mine last night.
Yeah, no, it's weird. Well, it should be the first one, so I'm going to click here. And if I don't find it here, that's weird. Huh. Let me turn on the sound.
This year's game, Lunacy. Lunacy is played on a Welcome to the 2009 First Robotics Competition, and this year's game, Lunacy. Lunacy is played on a 27 by 54 foot field known as the Crater. Positioned in bases at each end of the field from where they control their robots. Additional player stations are located along the edges of the crater. The crater is covered with slick polymer material called regolith that provides a unique surface for the robots to drive upon. Special wheels are used on the robots to create a low friction interaction with the regolith. This simulates the low traction effects of driving in the 1/6 gravity on the surface of the moon. Lunacy uses 3 types of game pieces known as moon rocks, empty cells, and supercells. The trailer is attached to each robot. The trailers are the targets for the opposing alliance. The objective of the game is to get as many moon rocks and supercells into the opposing trailers as possible. At the start of the game, human players known as payload specialists are positioned in the outpost stations. Each robot is placed on their launch pad with the trailer touching the wall of the crater. autonomous period, players in the corner fueling stations in the outpost attempt to launch moonrocks into moving trailers. Each robot starts in a launch pad in front of an opposing player. As robots start to move away, the other alliance may try to block the robot's progress to make them easy targets. Or, robots may use their cameras to track the vision targets on top of each trailer. This allows them to track and score in the opponent's trailer. At the end of the autonomous period, human pilots step forward to take the controls. During the tele-operated period of the game, pilots guide the robots as they attempt to launch moonrocks into the trailers of the opposing alliance. Meanwhile, human payload specialists will also attempt to score moonrocks into passing trailers. Robots can also recycle game pieces back to the payload specialists. With a low-friction playing surface, robots will slide easily and high-speed collisions will be common. Bumpers are necessary to prevent damage. The outpost payload specialist can also deliver special empty cells to their robots. The robots then deliver these empty cells to their fueling stations. At the fueling station, the empty cells are exchanged for supercells. During the last 20 seconds of the match, humans or robots can score bonus points by getting supercells into opposing trailers. Each scored moonrock or empty cell is worth 2 points, and each supercell is worth 15 points in the game. Good luck, and we'll see you at the competition.
So that's 2009.
And this is in Long Beach this weekend?
Huh?
This is in Long Beach?
Yeah, it's at the Long Beach Arena. And then in April, they have the World Championships in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the Superdome or whatever they have there. And let's see, my son was there last year, and during the summer they have an invitational in Indiana. We go there. This is what they did in 2008. So you can see how different the robots are and the rules are. At the world, how many teams compete? At the World Championships, there were maybe several hundred, maybe 300-400. There are a total of almost maybe 2,000 teams in the world. Most of them are in the United States, but now it's branched out. There were teams from Israel, Mexico, and I think Australia or New Zealand and stuff. So. You do, and many some teams are affiliated with high schools, and the high school supports it, and they integrate it into the curriculum. My son's team does not. They work in Pasadena, and they share a workspace with Muir High School, who does integrate it in their curriculum, but my son is a student in South Pasadena High School, and they don't. So this is just extra on his own, that sort of thing. Do that. This is the 2008, so you can see the difference from year to year. They're considerably different, so you can't just reuse the same robot, and they wouldn't allow that anyway, but it wouldn't do you any good.
Welcome to the 2008 First Robotics Competition and this year's game, First Overdrive. Overdrive is played on a 27 by 54 foot carpeted field. 2 alliances of 3 teams each occupy the ends of the field from where they control their robots. Each team is composed of drivers, a coach, and a new position, the robo-coach. The center of the track is spanned by the overpass, which is 6.5 feet above the floor. A 6-foot-tall lane divider runs down the midline of the track. The 2 structures help define the finish lines on the red and the blue lanes of the track. The game pieces for First Overdrive are 40-inch diameter inflatable balls known as track balls.
They're big.
There are 2 for each alliance. The objective of Overdrive is to have each alliance move their robots and track balls around the track as rapidly as possible and gain points each time they cross their finish line. Bonus points are earned every time a track ball passes over the overpass. Robo-coach stations are located at the corners of the track. Robots start the match lined up against their alliance wall. Starting positions for the track balls are randomly determined before each match. The match starts with hybrid mode, hybrid period, the robo-coaches can pass signals to the robots to give them cues to alter their gameplay. At the end of hybrid period, the human players step forward and take control of the robots. As teleoperated period starts, robots continue to race around the track and score points each time they cross their own finish line. When overtaking slower machines, robots can signal a desire to pass by gently bumping. Robots can move trackballs around the field by bumping and hurting them. Or the trackballs can be captured and possessed. Trackballs score each time they cross their own finish line. 2 points for going under the overpass, 8 points for going over. Robots will have to be built robustly to avoid damage from falling trackballs. Trackballs placed back on the overpass at the end of the match will earn a special 12-point bonus. Of course, they have to stay there. Good luck, and we'll see you at the competition.
So each team creates their own robot to play this game. That's what's happening.
And then in the competition, you say they have alliances, so they form. There are teams that compete against teams and that are allied with other teams. And the reason they do that is that they're trying to develop a competitiveness that's different from traditional sports. In sports like football, you win at any cost. If you can hurt the other team, I mean literally, not figuratively, take out a quarterback or something to gain advantage, that's the whole purpose of it. You know, if you can break another opponent's knee or something like that, then that's the way it goes. And it does get to that level, even at the high school level. This doesn't work this way because what they do is the competition is the one that determines who the alliances will be, so that you will have several matches during the day and you will be allied with different teams. So in the morning, a team that might be that might be on the same team as you, allied with you, in the afternoon might be your opponent, or vice versa. So if you try to damage the robot, then in the afternoon they might be on your team, and then it's going to work against you. Now the reason that they're doing that is because a number of the students that go on, you know, typically go on in engineering and that sort of thing. That's what their goal is. And the head mentor on my son's team is a PhD from Caltech, and he's worked at JPL for a number of years. So he's responsible for building, you know, the moon rovers and things like that with robotic arms and that sort of thing. And you can see that there's a lot of stuff that applies. Now, if everybody is competing against one another in that situation, and there's failure, and that has happened, and a lot of it is due to attitudes by engineers of not speaking up with management to say, you know what, you're cutting budgets, and we're doomed to failure. Okay, think of some of the shuttles that have blown up. So there are this competition, and there are some engineering schools now that are trying to retrain not just how engineers learn, but how they compete, how they, you know, with other engineers, how they work with other team members, how they relate to management, how that sort of thing, to avoid catastrophes. You know, when bridges fail after 50 years, a lot of those things are avoidable. And the engineers know it, but they're too afraid to say anything for fear of their job or retribution, you know, some sort of retribution. And they're trying to change, you know, this is trying to change that. That's one of the goals. Other than, I mean, in the World Championship last spring, my son's team didn't do as well as I hoped. You know, out of 400 teams, they placed like 80 or something. But part of the big problem was that they almost were going to go to the finals, but they developed electrical problems. And that happens, you know, and once that happens, you're dead in the water. So they couldn't repair it in time, so they just dropped in the ranking. But one of the things on the positive side that helped is that there was some other guy there from another team, and I don't know what his status was with NASA or something, who's this electrical engineer, a wizard, and he sat down with the boys, and there are women too. I mean, but it's mostly guys, and they encourage anybody. There are some women on some teams. In fact, there are a couple that are all women teams, which are really kind of neat. They all compete together. It's not like it's segregated. But he sat down with them, and he showed, he explained how you would analyze the electrical problem and that sort of thing. So they get this free lesson from this guy, wizard from MIT or something. That you wouldn't, that kind of experience you wouldn't have anywhere else. So it was kind of neat. Anyway, that's what he's doing. So if you have some time this weekend on Saturday, and I want to know why this isn't showing up, but anyway.
Is it all day?
It is, so you can come and go. The competition usually starts in the morning and ends about 4 o'clock. Starts at 9 and ends at 4. Okay. So everybody has their account? Okay, almost everybody. If you don't, please by this weekend, have it. So if you recall, pardon my cough, once you have your account with Tripod, this is what you need to do. You first need to, on your flash drive, create what is called a root folder. Inside the root folder, you'll have all the files that will be on your website, and I mean all of the files. You can name it whatever you want because it is local. Do not move it around when you're done. Do not name it when you're done. Rename it when you're done, because it will change the path from within Dreamweaver, and you might have broken links, which could result in nasty problems. Now, Dreamweaver does have some backup and some fail-safe to help prevent that. It will give you some warnings if something happens. Okay, but it's just simpler if you do that. And don't have multiple, at this point in time, don't have multiple root folders, or that will cause problems too. Okay. So then once you have your root folder, the next step is to open Dreamweaver and to go into site, and you want to create a new site. You have your choice of basic or advanced. I think it's easier just to select advanced. Name your site, and because that's local, that can be any name you want. Then the next step is to click on the folder to the right, the icon, find the root folder that you created, select it, and then say choose. Then if you wish, you can create an image folder in there, which isn't a bad idea because all of the images that you use on your website will be mixed in with the HTML pages when you see the content of your folder. So this separates it. The next step is links relative to document or site root. It doesn't really matter for us. Then you need to put in your URL, and then they start it for you with http:// and yours will be whatever your username is, .tripod.com. Then the next step is to click on remote info, and by default access is set to none. Click on the flyout or the little drop down menu and select FTP. Your host for Tripod will be ftp.tripod.com. You do not have to worry about a host directory. That remains blank. The login is the username that you established with Tripod, whatever that is, and it is case sensitive. So exactly the way you put it in there. And whatever password you used to establish your account with Tripod goes here. Also click down here, use passive FTP, and then click OK, and we're done. When you're done, you can go back to site and select manage sites, and you'll see whatever site it is that you have created.
What's the FTP host?
ftp.tripod.com. Now, it's easy to forget that information. It's easy to lose your notebook, to not remember, look at your notes and not read your handwriting and struggle with it later, because by not knowing that, not having that information at your disposal, you will not be able to upload the files that you create or modify them, because you won't have access to it. Okay? Well, as a safeguard, we can export and import that information. So last session I created Lauren Miller 3, which is the same as Lauren Miller 2 and Lauren Miller. So I want to export it. And we didn't do this last week, or last Tuesday, and I want everybody to do this, because it will really help you a lot. And the reason I encourage you to do that here is because you may have noticed that when you logged in today, even if you established a site, it's gone.
It is.
Right. So that, see, at home that won't happen. It happens here because they have deep freeze installed. Deep freeze, every time you log out of the computer, reconfigures it to its original configuration, the computer. So any modifications you've made to the computer go away. Any files you leave on the desktop go away, or anywhere else for that matter.
No, I thought I put it on my.
Yeah, well, no, if it's on your flash drive, that's different. If you put it on the desktop, on the computer that's sitting in front of you, that's different.
If I establish my root folder onto my flash drive, it should show up, yeah?
No, because that's actually something that's done in Dreamweaver. But this is how you're able to work around it. So everybody pay attention here. You select, I have multiple sites. You will have one that I want to manage. And I don't want to have to remember for a dozen sites the username, the login, the login, and the passwords, and the FTP. I don't want to have to remember all of that. So what I want to do is I want to export that information. Okay? So it says, are you exporting this site to back up your settings or to share your settings with other users? I want it for backup. But if, as I mentioned on Tuesday, sometimes, and this is often the case when you're working on websites, if it's something that's other than personal, that you'll be working on Teams, and so you want to share that with people. So in this instance, it's just back up the settings, meaning include login, password, and local paths for yourself, so you don't have to remember. Click OK, and now it wants to know, where do you want to save it? Well, I want to save it, to make it simple on myself, just put it in my root folder. Okay? Because I'm not going to move my root folder, I'm not going to do anything to it. And you'll notice that it automatically adds an extension, STE, which stands for site. This is a local file, it's a Dreamweaver file, it is not one that will be uploaded when you publish your site. It's just simply there. So I'm going to go ahead and select on my desktop, and I'm going to go down here to Lauren Miller 3. And you notice I already have a bunch of stuff in there anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and save that information. And I'm going to select Done. Okay? Now you come back. So let's go, you're done for the day. You come back, and let me go ahead, and I'm going to remove Lauren Miller 3. Says you can't undo it, it's gone. This is what you get when you come back every day, right? They're all gone. Now you want to import that information, because otherwise you're going to have to remember and refer to your notes. So what we could do now is to import. And I go back to the desktop or wherever my root folder is, and it will be on your flash drive. I select Lauren Miller 3, and I find the STE file. Here's the STE file for Lauren Miller 3. And I click open. You don't want multiples in here. And I know that this is confusing you, but I want to show you how to download the other day. You only want that one in here. Open it up. It brings it in, and I have it all. Now watch, you go back to edit. It has all of that information that I put in there the other day. Okay? So that, to make your life easier, will be a big plus. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a shell of a website. I haven't seen this done elsewhere. This is one of my few inventions. I find it, for an introductory class, helpful. I know most of you have, or many of you have, lofty goals of some really sophisticated, elegant-looking websites. But my recommendation is to start with a basic website that's text only, and then integrate the images with the text, and then create more sophisticated layouts, and then, you know, as you go, the thing metamorphosizes. It changes, it develops. And that's what I was going to say before I turned the video camera on. I said I'm getting ahead of myself, is that when you deal with print, what you design is final. It's done. You print it, end of story. If you make a revision, you can create from scrap, or you can work from an existing file, but most of the time you think of it as an end product. Websites, on the other hand, are organic in the sense that they're constantly changing. How many websites do you go to frequently that when you go back every day they change? They're a little bit, or within a few months there's something different. So it's never finished. So if you can look at it that way and not try to get to the end, your lofty goal too quickly, because if you go down that path too quickly, I've had the experience with some students that by the end of the semester they're just struggling to get one page done. And it's a beautiful looking page, but that doesn't help you. It would be better to have 4 or 5 pages that are clean, simple, elegant, that work, not too fancy, but at least the whole thing works. And then when you have time after the semester is over, or if you do have time during the remaining weeks, then a page at a time, you go back in and you revise it. And you can start with a brand new page and you can swap them out. Okay, so it's flexible in that regard. You can't do that with a book. Once you publish the book and later on you discover there's a typo, the only time you can change that is when a new edition comes out, right? You can't cut out the page or call the the publisher and say, hey, dump a few $100,000, a few 100,000 books in my garage, and I'm going to cut out page 79 and glue in another one. It doesn't work on the web, but it works beautifully. You can make changes all you like. So I'm trying to emphasize that a little bit more than I usually do. Okay? What I want to do first, and you don't need to follow along just yet, because in Lauren's site, I have a whole bunch of stuff here. And I'm going to get rid of just about all of it. I'm going to get rid of this because this is from previous semester. I'll leave the image. I'm going to get rid of just about everything. Scripts, resumes, this. And when you delete from the local files, so do you really want to delete these files? I've selected them. They're gone. It's gone from here. They're gone. They're permanently gone. It's like using Bridge in Photoshop. When you remove files or edit them from them, they're permanently edited. They're gone. So when I select yet, they're gone. I'm going to also take this image out too, because this is what you have when you start. It's just empty folders, containers. So what I want you to do this morning is just watch and look at the minimal files that I use. I'm not going to, and on Tuesday I'm going to give you an overview of Dreamweaver, because right now this may look pretty foreign to you, but I just want to get a basic website established. And then we can have an overview, and then we'll start by covering maybe text and then images and, then different ways of creating more complex layouts and that sort of thing, and CSS and then so on and so forth. So I want to begin by creating a new page, and my first page, not a new page, but my first page for my website. And that may be all that we do today. That you get your first page, and that you save it, and that you publish it. Okay? And if you get success with that, that would be terrific. Then that's the experience you'll have for the whole website. So what I want to do is I want to create file new, and I just want it a blank one, HTML, okay? And the doc type you want, and I probably should explain these, and I will do this better on another day. Let's just do XHTML transitional, okay? Leave the default setting here and create new. And you'll notice here we have an untitled HTML document, and by default, at least on my computer, it's set to split. How many of you have had taken HTML in computer graphics, computer graphics, and the computer science area? Anybody? Okay. You don't to use Dreamweaver, you don't have to know HTML. But my recommendation is not that you learn it, is that you just look at it and study it and become, you know, just by looking at a foreign language, sometimes you can kind of glean from that what they're trying to say, and you'll see certain familiar phrases and ways that syntax, ways that things are structured, and that will help you later on to fix problems. So I'm going to leave the split view, but you can, at the top here, choose design view, which is the way it's going to look on the web. You can also select code view, and for those of you who just want to create a page by typing in code, you can do that. Dreamweaver has survived, I think, in one respect because it was unique, is that it did not add any proprietary code. Front Page, I think, failed because it did, as well as some other programs that existed. And actually, they were owned by Adobe. They have since gone away. This is Adobe, but they bought it from Macromedia. Right. Front Page was Microsoft, but Adobe had, and I don't even remember now, there were a handful of programs. When I developed this class, web design was in its infancy. And I was on my sabbatical leave, and it was Dreamweaver 1 came out, and there were a handful of other programs, and I thought, which one do I choose? You know, we're going to have to buy, 30 software packages, and what direction? And I lucked out, and that was my reasoning, is that it didn't add proprietary code. And why is that useful? Because then you can open it in just about any document. You can open this file in Front Page, and it will be perfect. Once you save it as a Front Page document, then it creates proprietary code, and then when you go ahead and open it back up in Dreamweaver, you'll notice that sometimes your layout changes because of things that it's done to it, which is no good. So that's a good thing. So I want split view, which is kind of nice. You don't have to look at the grid here, but it can be useful. You don't have to look at rulers, but that can be useful, and they can be found under View. You notice we have Rulers, Show, and under Grid, Show, we can have Snap to Grid, which can be useful. Those can be turned on and turned off. That's neither here nor there at the moment. What we do want to do before we begin building our website is establish a page size, and this is important. You know what? Probably next Tuesday, before I do Dreamweaver, I want to talk about, I'm going to step back a bit, and I want to talk about design principles for the web. So there's a little PDF file that I have, a little presentation that I'll give, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll move on to Dreamweaver. We'll see if I can get it all done, and maybe we'll just dedicate the whole class to that and Dreamweaver. And how that can be determined is down at the bottom here. When we remember in Photoshop when we were saving for the web, it gave us really important information. It told us the file size. It told us the number of seconds for download and all that sort of thing. Well, that's the same down here. It tells us that this is 843 by 455. It tells us that it's 1K. It would take 1 second to download. Now, we can change the properties. This is probably set for 56K. But if I click here where it says 843 by 455, You'll notice that there's other sizes here too. You can use 800 by 600 maximized, or you can use 795 by 470 maximized. And even though this allows you to resize this afterwards, I would not do that. I would leave it alone. And it's hard not to, because just habit from Photoshop and Illustrator.
So what is that?
To zoom in, you can go. We don't have anything in here, but you'll notice a little zoom button down at the bottom to zoom in and zoom out. I would use that, because what this does is gives you the correct proportions and size for how the end user is going to see the page. And when I talk more about this next Tuesday, about some of the principles involved in web design, one in particular is that you, especially on the first page that shows up, your splash page, your home page, whatever you want to call it, you want to make sure that at a glance the end user can see everything. They do not have to scroll. It's okay on additional pages if they have to scroll, but not on, technically it's okay on the first page, but it's not something that you want them to do. Now, this page size is designed for small monitors. 15-inch monitor would be, you could view this in its entirety. Now, why would you want to design for a 15-inch monitor? How many of you have 15-inch monitors at home? You do? Okay. And it's not a laptop, right?
I have a laptop.
Other than a laptop. See? So you'd say, why can't I design for 17, 19, 20-inch? And you can, but even if you're targeting a high-end audience, like an art director who might have a nice big 21, 30-inch monitor at home, that'd be a nice, beautiful monitor, could have a big website. If it's too big, it'd be like a Dodger Stadium trying, one of those big screens trying to view it. It doesn't make sense. You need a reasonable size. But more importantly, even art directors, most of them carry around laptops, and they're 15-inch. So that has to be viewed in its entirety, and so these are the sizes that will accommodate that. The other rule another important rule for web design that this adheres to is the page width is really important. If you make it wider, then the end user has to scroll left and right, and that's a big no-no. People do not like to do that. Why we don't like to do that, I have no idea. It's okay, people feel comfortable scrolling up and down, that's okay, but scrolling left and right, no. And so what happens is that if your page size is larger than what they can view on their screen, then they have to scroll. So if you establish these parameters at the onset, then you know on a small monitor they can only scroll up and down, left and right, they won't have to. Okay? And as you can see, it shows you here that it's 1K, it'll take 1 second to download, and we can change those properties too. I'll show you that on another day, how to change the preferences. So now we're ready to create a very simple page and save it. And this is important. The title, you can name whatever you want. The title of the page is not the file name. Does everybody understand that? The title of the page is not the file name. It's the name that comes up when it loads in the browser, meaning at the top of the browser. So this could be, Lauren's homepage. So I can have spaces, I can use capital letters, everything. This is embedded in the HTML. This is okay. And now I'm ready to save the file. I haven't designed anything yet, but I'm ready to save it. And this is extremely, extremely important. When you save it, I'm going to go File, Save As, and you're ready to name the file, and you'll notice it automatically goes to your root folder. Do not save it outside of your root folder. The first page that loads, and this is always, always the case. There are exceptions, but we don't want to know about those right now, is index.html. You don't name it home page, you don't name it splash page, you don't name it my page, you don't name it anything like that. It's index.html. And you only have one index page in your root folder that is open. When you publish your website and to Tripod or any other provider, internet provider or hosting service, when someone types in your address and it goes to look for a page to load, it always looks for the index.html first. That's the first one that loads. It only looks for that. Okay, so that's what you name your first page. So I'll go ahead and I'll save it. So technically I have a page here that I can use. The next step is to do something very simple here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe change the background color, put in here Lauren's new website. So to change the background color, what I can do is I can go to modify page properties or hit Command J. And under appearance, you'll notice that there's lots of settings in here, lots of bells and whistles. I'm only concerned at the moment for background color. So I can click on the box or I can type in a hexadecimal number. Remember when we were talking about web safe colors? That's what all of these are. And I'm going to click this little peach kind of color and click OK. And it changes the background color. And then at the bottom, let's go ahead and let's add some text. So what I'm going to do under font format is I'm going to select heading 1. You can put whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I'm going to make it bold. This is where we begin to run into issues with type and fonts. Notice that we don't have a huge selection down here. I've talked about this before, that you are really limited to the fonts that you can use in HTML. Because even if I select Verdana, if the end user does not have Verdana on their computer, then what it's going to do is then next hunt for Arial, which is found on PCs, Helvetica, which is actually Arial is a bastardization of Helvetica, and if it can't find any of these, it's going to look for the default sans serif typeface. So unfortunately, you have to build in some flexibility, but I do like Verdana. I want it to be centered, and I'm going to type in Lauren's new website. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key and hit return and type. Okay? And that's it. That's all I want to do. I have a different color. I have a different, a little bit of thing here. And maybe I'll go ahead down here and I'll type more to come soon. And it goes back to the default type when I do that, which is okay. I'll just leave it default. And now I'm ready to save again, Command S, and it saves it to my root folder. You'll notice that when I make a change, and anytime you make a change to a page, notice the little asterisk up here. It indicates that a change has been made and that that change has not been saved. So before you can publish it, you need to do that. So it's saved. When we look inside here, you'll notice I have index.html. And I repeat, the first page that loads, you can name it under title, splash page, home page, whatever you want. But the first page you use that loads on is to be the one that loads. When someone types in your URL, the file name needs to be index.html or index.htm, whichever. And we'll talk about that more too, a little bit. Okay, so that's saved. Now I'm ready to publish it. Now I want to show you a couple of things. I'm going to click on this button to the far right. We're under Files. It's a little flyout. It's expand to show local and remote. Now if I have everything set here, I can click on this button. It's a a plug, a male-female plug, to connect to the remote hosting site. When I click here, because I already have a whole bunch of files here, and I'm just going to delete them all when I'm done. You don't want to do this. But I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to click on this one, this one, this one, this one. I'm going to delete them. And now these are gone from that server. Okay. And that's okay. Now I'm ready to upload. This is what yours should look like. I'm trying to approximate it. What you should probably do first, before you upload it, to show the difference, is that what I'll do is I'll type in here. Let's see what I get. It should have updated it. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to type in Lauren Miller.tripod.com. There's probably, I'll get an error message or something. There's nothing here. No. Whoops, it's not going to get anything. Remember I said no www? I forgot. Hold on. I thought I had removed that. Not paying attention here. See, that's what I get. It says unavailable, you know, because it doesn't show any index page. Even if there is an index page that they give you by default, it'll probably say more to come soon or here soon or something like that. It's going to look similar to this. That's what, if you type yours in right now, it should look something similar to this. Okay? Well, I want my own now. I'm going to replace their default one with my own. So now what I'm going to do, if you see over to the left on yours, if it says index.htm, delete it. If it says index.html, then what you do is you click on the index.html file and drag it over and place it on top of that existing one. If it isn't there, then I'm going to do what I'm doing here. I'm going to place it in this top folder and release. Now, this is a nice feature with Dreamweaver. It says the file index.html has been modified. Do you wish to save the file before putting? Yes. So it automatically saves it. Then what the other thing that it does, now it's copied over here, but I already from previous semesters have removed this, but it prompts you. It says, do you, this is what you should possibly see. Do you want to also upload these ancillary files, something to that effect, meaning all of your images, SWF files, whatever. And I would click yes and then say don't show again. Because you never know, there may be a file or an image or something that you modify and you forget to upload it when you're revising it. And then when you go to see the revised version, something is missing. But what this will do, this feature will do, is that it will take every file associated with that page and upload it, even if it duplicates it and replace the old with the new, so that you have that current document that you're working on. And that's what you want. I think that's a really good precaution. Now I can go back here, and I'm going to click the refresh button, and you'll notice I have my ugly tripod website. These are the banner ads that I'm talking about. Top, bottom, everything. But it's free, and it's a way to learn. I mean, Lauren's new website is just hardly anything here. I mean, you really have to do a lot in order to make it visible. Notice how much of the page is taken up just by all their ads. So, what I would like everyone to do today, I can do more, but I'm going to turn off the video recorder, is I would like everybody to at least get this far. You got it? How many people already have it? You're the Lone Ranger. Well, then, do you want, okay, do you want,
Watch.
that's true. Well, who listens to me? How many of you are watching YouTube right now? How many of you are emailing right now? How many of you doing something else? Yeah, see? Okay. Let me go ahead then, since we do have one person here. This is, you can create a shell of a website on the fly in here that is functional. There will be empty pages, but it will be functional. And the links will be text links, and there'll be default links and everything, but it works. And this is how you do it. At the top, I had my remote files and my local files. Instead, what I want to do is I want to use, at the top here, is I want to look at sitemap, and I want map and files. And you'll see that I only have one HTML file in here. But this is the core. This is the hub of your website. And now, from here, going nowhere else, I can build an entire website. And this is how you do it. What I do here is I can control click on the site page here, on this folder, control click. And I can create a new file. And this is a new file that's been added to my root folder now. It's just not this little text thing on the page. It's a new HTML file. And you want to make sure that you leave HTML here. Do not delete it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create all the pages. So this is your homework, is that you need to start to gather content, if you haven't already, for your website. Decide how many pages that you want and or need. You need at least 4. It's not a very big website. It'd be nice to have 4 or 5 pages. And I'm going to show you the core, for a personal website, what you would have. You have your index or splash page. I'm going to have an about page. I'm going to go ahead and hit control here, and I'm going to create another new file. And this one is going to be my resume. I'm going to hit control and root folder, another new file. And this one is going to be my portfolio. And maybe one more, maybe a contact page. So that's it. New file, contact. Now all these pages can be substituted or be swapped out later on. But it gives me my core. Now what I want to do is I have my home page, but I don't have links to these other pages. Nor do I have links from those pages to other pages or back to my home page, do I? They're separate. They're separate, and I want to kind of think of it like a book. I want to have a spine, and I want to have them joined together so that they're a single unit. And that's what links do, that get you from one page to another. With small websites, it's not an issue, but larger ones, it can be. But another rule of thumb that you want to think about, and it's an important one, that you should be able to get to anywhere on your website within 3 clicks. Okay? Now, I break that rule on mine, but within each of those 3 websites I have, I don't. But I've thrown 3 websites together into one, and actually, I'm not so sure. It's pretty close to being 3 clicks. So how do I link these guys together? This is how you do it. So everybody watch, and I click on the index HTML here. And you'll notice a little target right here. This is a link target. The only thing I have to do is I click on it, and I drag, and I point to the page. Now it is linked to the About page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag to the Resume page, because I want that to be the second link. And now I click and I drag to my portfolio page, and I click and I drag to my contact page. Now watch, if I go back to here, here are the links. And they will take me there. Now I need to be able to get back. So how do I get back? Very simply, I click on the About page, and I repeat the same step, same series of steps. And, think of it in a logical order. I first want to be able to go back home, then I want to go back to the resume, then the portfolio, then the contact. You don't need an About link because you're already there. Correct? Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to link to my index page first. Then I'm going to click to the About page. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to my resume page. Then I'm going to go to the portfolio page. Then I'm going to go to the contact page. And I'm going to repeat that for each of these. Obviously, I'm leaving out the page that we're on. Then what I can do is I can open up each one of these pages, and at the top I can write About, Resume, Portfolio, Contact, so I know what each of those are. And they're just blank sheets ready to be designed and work, but they have all the usable links. It is a functioning website. It's a very nice feature, and I don't see this done anymore. If any of you want to spend your $25 a month with lynda.com, it is very useful, but they are really going in a direction that I disagree with. I was looking at the CS4 Dreamweaver tutorials, and it's like they have eliminated all of the basics and jumping into CSS design, and they're starting really advanced, or at least at an intermediate level, and I think most people are going to be absolutely lost, but I could be wrong. And I think, I'm trying to take it so that we're working with training wheels right now, and by the end of the semester, hopefully, I don't know how many of you have kids, but when they ride the bikes or the training wheels, the wheels bend, and they're actually on two wheels, but they don't know it. And then gradually take them off, and then you can build, and refine. And that's how I approach it. That's how I treat myself when I learn. So that's what I'm doing. So let me go ahead and complete this, and then I'll do the About page to show you how we can link back and forth. We've already established that. So I'll go to Resume, and I'll go back to the first one I want to be the index page. Then I want to go to About. Then I want to go to Portfolio. No, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to do that. Oh, it's okay. I made a goof. And then Contact. No, maybe that is right. Is that right? Oh, okay. Select the next one. Now we're at Portfolio. Again, I want to go to Index first. Then I want to go to About. Then I want to go to Resume. Then I want to go to Contact. Select Contact. I first want to go to Index. Now you can always swap these around. You can cut and paste. And we can always, instead of using the default text for links, we can substitute images. For links, we can use flash buttons. You can do whatever you want. But at least it works now, because there's nothing worse than a website that has broken links and it doesn't work. We all have, even though I was educated in the old school, and I think I have a pretty good attention span, on the web, I don't. You get impatient. And if somebody goes to your website and they can't get to what they want quickly, and there are non-functioning pages and there are broken links, they're gone, and they aren't coming back. About, Resume, Portfolio. Okay. So I don't have to save anything. This is all done. So I'm going to go ahead and close this back up. Not now. Let's go back up here. And let's start by opening up the About page. There it is. See, it's an empty page with all the links. So let's hit this a couple of times to the return key to move that down. Let's move the cursor to the top, and I'm going to center it. And I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to heading 1. I'm going to, I'll just leave it a white page. make it bold. I'll make it Verdana. And we'll type this about. Whoops. Okay, and notice it's not saved. You have to save it. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's test this or publish this. I'm not going to publish it yet. I want to test it. So I'll go to File, Preview in Browser. I can do that from here. Use Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari. Or I can do that from here. I can preview from here. Same place. This is probably an easier place. So let's go to Firefox. And here it is. Here's my About page. And now watch, when I click on Index, it takes me back. Now I need to see, it's taking it to the actual website. And I don't have those links on that website yet. So now I do have to upload it. Okay. Now I can go back and I can do a fly out. And I can go ahead and I can put the whole thing. Let's go ahead and do that. I've saved all the changes. And I'm just going to put the entire website. Later on, you're not going to want to do that. You're just going to want to replace individual files because it will be too taxing on the transfer of data to computers and the server to do the whole thing. Yes to all. I think everything is done. Now let's refresh. See, now I have my links and I click and I'm in About and I click back to Index and I'm back. And I have my whole page. So this is as far as I wanted to go today. I have a shell of a website that I was able to create very quickly. And it's all text and it's not very pretty, but at least it works. And when I designed this class, really what I was trying to do, and it's not to make my website, and I have intentionally left it this way. Here, wait a minute. My personal website here. Not the blog. Oh, come on. But if I go to the home here, this is my personal website, that I wanted to utilize good design, that would be something that would be very doable in this class by the end of the semester. That you have a website that integrates Flash, images, CSS, that would be a good personal one. And here's the one where I had this is, okay, little sample images, biography, another Flash piece that I had done in here using Drag-A-Mask. Resume. Okay. So this is doable. And if you really want to go further and do more and make it more object-based, make it rather image-based, design it using the CSS templates or something would be my guess. But at least if we start with a shell and start with text and basic images, you will have a working website. And that is the goal of the class, to have a working website. Okay? Okie doke. The rest of today is a work day. Okay.
How do we keep the background?
Oh, go to Modify, Page Properties. Yeah.
Oh, control.
Uh-huh.